Just some housekeeping rules for the audience. Please mute yourselves to be respectful of our panelists today. If you do have a question and you want to type it in the chat, I will definitely get to it. I'll be the one monitoring the chat for our panelists. No AI notes, please. It's a sensitive topic. There might be some tears shed today, and so we just want to make sure we keep the privacy of the credit unions that are supporting us doing this panel today and just the privacy of everyone else on this call. So please, no AI notes, no recordings. The recording will only be shared with membership. Again, just be mindful of those things. I also want to say it's a safe space for all of us. I think our community really needs this webinar. It's been a long time in the making. I just wanted to make sure that when we delivered this webinar, it was thoughtful. And it was in a way that honors our communities and honors the people that are doing everything you all can for our communities and your branches and in all parts of the country. So again, it's a safe space. No question will be challenged. Just type it in. We want to make sure we address them. We have some questions in preparation for this webinar, but you all are welcome to type in your questions in the chat. So we love engagement, so please do so in the chat. And without further ado, my name is Barbara Mojica. I am the Executive Director of NALCUP. I've been with NALCUP actually, it's 3 years yesterday. So I've been with NALCUP for 3 years and really, really grateful to be here. I grew up undocumented in this country. I'm actually a DACA recipient. So this journey is really, really personal and it's affecting myself and my family as well. So again, it's a safe space for all. And I'll let Janet introduce herself and then we'll pass it over to Mary.
Thank you, Barbara. Buenos días a todos. My name is Janet Huereca. I'm the Vice President of Branches at Schools First Federal Credit Union. I'll tell you guys a little bit about my experience. I have 20 years in the financial services industry, but 12 years ago, I was lucky enough to join Schools First and learn a little bit more about the credit union movement. It really gave me a passion for serving, as I'm sure many of you have that same passion. It's allowed me to lead through various branches and in various uncertain circumstances. We're in a very uncertain time right now, but we've gone through so many other uncertain situations. And joining the credit union has really taught me how to lead in these spaces with care and empathy. So I'm just really grateful to be here with you guys. I also am a daughter of immigrants, and so it is deeply personal for me as well. And I'm happy to be here to talk about the challenges we're facing.
Mari, if you can.
Sigo yo. Buenos días. Good morning, everyone. She, her, A are my pronouns. Mary Navarrete, Director of Community Impact. I've been surrounded by beautiful credit unions and in my credit union for going on 19 years now. I started as a teller and now I'm the Director of Community Impact. I am also first generation of immigrant parents. So yes, this is definitely personal. It's very personal. And I actually, a week or two ago, I became Mexicana. So now I can proudly say, soy de Mexico. So it was definitely a dream come true for me, coming from immigrant families, knowing that that is my roots in my country. And I remember, and every time I go out to the community, that's where I lead for. And that's my number one, is what can we do better for nuestra comunidad, especialmente our immigrant community right now. So I'm excited. There's a lot of good conversations happening today. Get some tissues, drink some water, and we're here to really share and explore possibilities at how we can move forward and take care of our people. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you, Janet and Mary. Well, I was reading the second question. I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to get through asking this question? I think this is going to be probably the hardest moderation panel that I have had to do in my career here at NALCUP. So the second question goes, as credit union leaders, you've seen firsthand how recent events have shaken the sense of stability for many families. What has been on your heart the most as you watch your community navigate these uncertain times? Janet?
Yeah, absolutely. It is hard to answer this one as, like I mentioned, I am a daughter of immigrant parents, and when I think about the fears that our team and our members, our community are going through, they're the same fears that I'm facing, to be honest. Right now, there's a sense of our safety is being threatened. You know, families are anxious about being torn apart without warning. They're afraid to do simple day-to-day things like go get groceries, go to work. There's so many things that are just kind of weighing heavy on my heart right now. There's a feeling of being helpless and not being able to do much about what's out of our control. And to be honest, you know, I'm a mother too. So when I think about, you know, the sense of safety being threatened and what is out there right now, you know, I even worry about my husband taking my daughter to this to the store or to school, and you know what's going to happen with that. And I know that that's the same fear that our entire community is facing right now. There's a lot of what ifs, and if this time will be me. And you know, it's just difficult to see the real deep fear and the personal way that it's affecting all of us together collectively.
Thank you, Janet. Mari?
Yeah, I mean, for those that know me and for those that don't know me, it's very rare to see me not smiling or positive. I'm a very positive human being, even on those dark days or, so it's been very challenging to continue smiling and being positive for the community we serve and the familias included in our own family. So for me, what's been very hard is that they have to deal with the unknown, right? And giving them hope for so many years of like, yes, usted dele, you can make it. You can start your business. Yes, I know you have a food cart, but you're gonna have a restaurant next year. And yes, you can buy a house. This is how you start your credit. And like pushing them and pushing them and pushing them. And now it's like, what do you do? Right? It's like you still want to be hopeful and you still want to push them to be financial success in their with their loved ones and empezar el negocio or open a second restaurant. But then you have to be true to what's happening right now and start talking to them about, well, how are you protecting your assets, right? You don't want to share that fear with them, so you really have to put that face and still smile and still be positive and still say, you know what, we're here, we got you, right? And I think that has been the hardest part for me. It's still being that positive energy bubbly person, because they only have us. They come to us to make sure that their business is going to be protected, their house is going to be protected by their credit union. You have their back no matter what. And you do, right? But that sense that you can see and feel when they talk to you about the fear that they have, it is very heartbreaking. So the unknown, it's the challenging part that we face with them, but nothing comparable to a person that is here in this country without a status and in fear of continuing to, like Jeanette said, even going to work, right? Or continuing to provide to their loved ones.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's just like credit unions that service undocumented folks or folks without documentation have been such safe spaces for these folks, and like to be the ones to have to deliver like maybe you guys are not safe right now, maybe we need to take all these precautions. It's just heartbreaking, like you say, Mari, you're always positive, and now you're the one to also deliver potentially news that, hey, maybe we do need to take some safeguards and protect your accounts more, or etc. The next question is, can you share what you've been witnessing in your community and how it has affected credit union members and staff? Jeanette, I'll go with you first because I know California was heavily affected by rates, still probably continues to do so. And so we just want to pick your brain on that.
Absolutely, yes. So there has been a lot of ICE activity, you know, near our branches, maybe not directly coming into our branches, but definitely in and around the area. Not only just ICE driving around and them witnessing things, but also peaceful protests as our Latino community takes a stand. And, you know, the one thing that I think we don't often talk about is just the tense environments that our team and our members are in. You know, there are people on both ends of this immigration issue. And so, you know, even with our teams, there are members on the other end of this immigration issue as well who are voicing their opinions. And that's a lot of weight for our teams and our members to carry. And, you know, you think about social media now, you can't get away from it. It's not like you're waiting for the 6 o'clock news to find out what's happening. It's immediate and it's in your hands, in your face the entire time. And that only serves to intensify, you know, all the feelings that are happening. And then as far as like the team, you know, I know Mari kind of talked about, you know, the unknown. You know, there's a lot of personal stories that I've heard where, you know, our members, I'm sorry, our team members' families are detained and, you know, they don't know what's going on or they don't know how to get a hold of them. And Barbara, you mentioned you're, you know, a DACA recipient. We have various DACA recipients who are uncertain about their future and what that looks like, you know, and we recently had a managers meeting where there was a lot of pain being expressed, you know, not only because it's a personal issue to many, but because there's a helplessness, like I said previous, that there's a helplessness that we can't control everything. And sometimes our most powerful thing to do is just to stand with someone in their worry. So that's been really difficult.
Oh, I love that you said stand with someone in their worry. I think that's the perfect way to sympathize with folks. Mary, do you have anything?
So, you know, let's go back a little bit with the whole taxes and IRS and ICE and sharing data information. You know, since I've been part of the credit union journey, the first thing I tell my community is do your taxes. Come on, hagan los impuestos. Let's do things right. Let's do this, right? And right now I'm like, damn, Mary, you gotta eat your words now. Like, ¿qué vas a hacer, right? Like, what approach do we take now, right? So you know, for me, like what I've seen, you know, I had one of my comadres. As soon as the whole IRS and ICE, you know, thing happened, she called me because I was the one that showed her, like, I told her, like, you know, yeah, you do your taxes, and she's been doing it for a long time, and now she's like, comadre, ¿y ahora qué? And I'm like, darn it, right? So now it's like, how do we educate ourselves to continue educating our members? And we're not attorneys here, right? None of us are attorneys, right? We're credit union advocates. We're, you know, and so finding those resources for them to get information, right? And still caring and letting them know, yes, you know, as a financial institution, we will still let you know, like, yes, we need your taxes, but we understand that you need to be safe. You need to do the right thing for your loved ones, for you and your loved ones. And it comes to a point where we need to, you know, pass that message and also give them the resources to get the right information for them, because we want them to continue doing the right thing, but also be safe. So I think that has been one of the biggest challenges that I've seen a lot of my communities here when they've asked. The second one would be, you know, when things were happening about, like, if wires were going to be frozen, will I be able to send money back to my country? I've had several members reach out to me and be like, should I withdraw my account? Should I close my account? Should I take cash out? Right? So how are we as credit unions continue to educate our members and share with them your account is safe and this is why it's safe, right? One thing is that you just let it say it's safe, but it's just at the end of the day, it's Mary, right? So what are you providing? Are you providing information on our NCUA? Are you providing information of like, hey, if I travel, this is how I can get access to my account? So we've been doing a lot of that to make sure that our communities know that their money is safe at our institution, right? For our team members, it can be a conversation where some people feel uncomfortable because they don't want to share it out loud in a big group. So if for us as managers, it's really important that we're having one-on-ones with our staff regarding this topic. Many think that just because you're either, a citizen or you're from a different culture, that this is not affecting you. It is, because we're all watching the same news. We all have friends and we all have loved ones that are going through this, right? So at the end of the day, it is affecting you. So making sure that you're opening those spaces for your staff, right? And you're also providing those resources for them is really important, right? So we have a whole resource page for our staff to be able to get access to additional help and support. And I can talk a little bit more about that later. But those are the things that I'm seeing currently.
Thank you, Mary. We have a question in the audience that's anonymous. How can we show up for and support our teammates who are dealing with all this fear and uncertainty, but still have to put on a brave face for our members and in the workplace, Janet?
Like I said earlier, I think sometimes it just takes to stand with them in their worry, open up a space where they can be vulnerable and share with you. I know at Schools First, we have resources like Spring Health where therapy is available to our team, encourage them to seek that type of help and that support. There's not much, we can do except for be someone to support and listen and be someone to hold them through these things. There's also, I know, out there immigration resources that we can maybe point them towards, but ultimately I think in this time, because there is a lot of unknowns, it's really just being there to support them emotionally through what they're going through.
Mari, any insights to offer there?
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned, having that open door policy, right? Invite them in, invite them to a coffee. Like, we all know when someone's not having a good day or when we know someone is going through something. But I say this should be more of a kind of a monthly check-in, no matter what. Like, we should be doing this with our staff. And I'm sorry for all the bigger credit unions. Like, you guys are a lot. I get it. Good thing we're not as big, but I think we always need to have and find the time for our team, because if they're not okay, our members won't be okay too, right? So we need to make sure we take care of them, and just by having that conversation of how are you doing, right? And how is your family doing? Having them have that space where they can open up. It's that simple. A lot of times as supervisors, we tend to tense and say, oh, what can I say? What should I not say? Should I check in with HR? Can I say this? Can I ask that? We are all humans and we all need the same thing. And just asking the question of how are you doing? Knowing what's their favorite snack or coffee or tea, and just going out of your way and saying, you know what? My team needs this. I'm going to provide it to them. And, you might be making their day shine that day because maybe they've had a very hard moment with a family member that is going through a lot, right? You have to remember, like, a lot of us, we don't have an off switch. And I tell this to my boss all the time. He checks up on me a lot. My CEO is amazing. She does too. And I'm like, we don't have an off switch. We work and still live this, and we go home and we still live this. So there's no taking my hat off and it's at work. And then no, this is a survival mode. And so it's really important that we remember that even when it's a Friday and you are super busy, your branch is super busy, still remember that we're all humans and we need to be checked on and be making sure that we're okay.
We do have some questions in the audience, and I will preface this by saying if you don't know the answer, it's totally okay. Will any memberships where an ITIN or matricula used to open the membership be jeopardized or reported? Mari, I'll let you answer that one. No.
Not at all. Absolutely not. No.
Okay. And then the second question is, are you all encouraging people to list a power of attorney to their accounts in case something happens with being detained? How can branch employees best approach that conversation without instilling more fear? Janet?
Absolutely. I think there are various options, right? We're having conversations on power of attorney. We're having conversations in regards to vesting changes and options because, to Mari's point, our conversations have shifted from day to day, I need to buy a new auto loan to what happens if I'm detained and how do I have access to my money? What does my family do? So I think, all and any options are fair game in this situation. It's a case by case basis on what our members are going through and, what they're trying to accomplish. The goal is always to, respond with empathy and give them the peace of mind that it's not just about financial solutions, but about ensuring that they have that peace of mind and that security that everything's going to be okay on our end.
Mari, anything to add there?
Yes, so that's been our number one ask since the beginning of the year, is a talk about power of attorneys, trust accounts, joint, and talk about protection on their business accounts, signers, beneficiaries, and so being very open for that conversation, also having workshops with a lot of our community partners and recording this information is really important, right? There's certain things in the conversation that you don't want to have and when it's being recorded, and that's okay. We can have a specific workshop about just what is a power attorney, what kind of access does it have through my account, if I have a business account, how does that look? Also, partnering with some of these community partners that are working with a lot of, for example, we just made a partnership with one of our chambers here in Oregon, Hispanic Chamber, and we're going to be providing some workshops specifically on asset protection for business accounts, right? They already are working with all these businesses, and we're just coming forward and providing more additional information to make them feel more comfortable and make sure that their assets are protected. So just having this conversation, I know that we've been very against on providing actual attorney like documents, right? Because I'm sorry, power of attorney documents, because we're not attorneys. But shout out to Peninsula Credit Union. They've done a very simple sample of one to protect their assets as if you have a car or a house and things like that. So having to continue obtaining those payments from family members. So they share that with us. So big shout out to them, because now we're looking into maybe having that in-house and having that document available for our members. This is the beauty about credit unions. We all share, and let's continue doing that, especially right now. So if you all have this great procedure, great document, and you're like, this is amazing, more credit unions or all credit unions should have this, especially the ones that are continue to help the immigrant community, then let's go ahead and share that.
Thank you, Mari, for saying that. On NALCAP's website, we also have a resource page where we've placed a lot of resources that credit unions will send us or other folks. So please check that out as well. And if there's anything you want to share for us to post on the website, please let us know. We'll be happy to add it to the resource page. That way it's centralized in one place as much as possible. Because I think the way I've told my husband and other folks is like, you do one thing today and you think that's going to safeguard, and they come out with something new and it's just like, oh crap, we got to rethink the wheel again. So it has been stressful for those folks that are, maneuvering and getting all the resources for folks. So there's a lot of engagement in the audience. And I think I told Mari and Janet, I'm like, our audience is very engaged. We love that. Are there any attendees doing something different to connect with the members who may be avoiding banking as they used to do, engage with them during this time and make them feel more of a sense of belonging? Janet, and then we'll.
Absolutely. I think that what we need to do is look at unconventional ways. We're not in a conventional situation. So looking at unconventional ways to serve. I recently heard a story from one of my teams. I was just so proud of them. It's nothing big, but it honestly made a huge difference. ICE had been running around the shopping center and a member was waiting to be served. She became visibly shaken and said, I can't be here. She didn't feel safe. And the team immediately went into empathy and understanding and said, you know what, we're going to serve you from the safety of your home. Go home. We'll call you in just a moment and we will complete your transaction, because it probably took a lot for them to make that decision. If they're not grocery shopping and they're not going to work, it probably took a lot for them to say, I need to go to the credit union today. And so, an unconventional method of, meeting them where they're at. And where she was in that moment was, I need to be safe at home. And the team understood that and was able to allow that. So I think, there's going to be different ways that come up in ways that we have to be different than what we're used to, because this is a very different time that we're in.
Mari?
Yeah, definitely meeting our community and our members where they're at. it kind of been our model a long time ago, but now is really intentional, right? So we've gone to on-site properties and opened accounts there. Going out to them and saying, it's people that have never had an account before. They don't know the language, right? They've always been in fear of opening an account. So we've done on-site accounts. We've also, shout out to my coworker here, Alicia Partida. We've done a YouTube channel and providing recordings what's an ATM, how to use an ATM, right? What's share branching, and upgrading a lot of our flyer materials that are more focused on what's happening right now, making sure that our members don't have to go to our office to get a transaction. They can go to their nearest credit union. They can call us, they can do the chat. And so being very open on serving them as much as we can. And we've done a lot of more education on like international wires, right? Like, how do I be ready for an international wire in case I do need to leave the country and I need to send all my money when I'm there, right? And so providing that information, including them how to close your account from out of state, out of the country, and having those conversations with them so they know that, okay, I'm ready. If anything happens, I know that my money is going to be safe and I'll be able to access it wherever I am.
Thank you. And I know we brushed on this question already, but I'll ask it in case you all had something prepared for it. How have these challenging times changed the conversations you're having with members day to day? And I know, Mary, you kind of just touched on that. So Janet, and then we'll take it back to Mary.
Yeah, I think, I think we've already kind of addressed it. I think what we have had to do is shift to emergency preparedness plans for our members and making sure that, like, Mari said, have every option available to them in the event that something were to happen. And so, the day-to-day conversations are more about if everything is intact in the event of something. And so that's kind of what we're moving towards. And again, with empathy, clarity, and calm, because they need to know exactly what's going on. And if there's chaos around us, we need to be that calm in that storm.
Mary, anything to add?
No, I mean, it's just really survival mode, it's really survival mode right now. I've conversations that I've heard and had that have been more frequent than before where, if, how can I leave everything for my child? They're minors, right? And so having those deep conversations with them is really important. And I feel very blessed that that our members and our community partners feel comfortable asking that, right? And even as I mentioned, we check in with each other as team members, but we should also be checking in with our members when they come in and cash that check or pay that rent and just be like, how are you doing today? How is the family? Have you started that business or anything like that to motivate them and say, oh, she cares, she remembers me, they care, right? And having that conversation where they know they're not just a transaction, they're part of our family, right? And so we want to know that they're okay.
And this next question is important. I think it's especially important for the allies that are joining us today on this call. So, what stories have stood out to you that show how deeply challenging or how deeply these challenges are affecting families? Janet?
Yeah, I think about the stories I'm hearing from our members and our team and what they're faced with. They're really faced with making difficult decisions. They're emotional decisions, but also tough financial implications are sometimes involved with those, difficult decisions that they're having to make. So I talked about earlier that, I've had several team members share that their parents were detained. And there's a lot of confusion and anxiety and pain, a lot of loss of income, loss of work. So like I said, one thing trickles to another. First, it's the fear of not knowing where my parent is. The next is the fear of, well, I haven't seen my parents in a week and we need to pay the mortgage. What are we going to do? So there's a lot of stories that are repeated in that way. And, there's also, this issue is not just a Latino issue. Our community is experiencing it, but it's a wide-reaching immigration issue. And recently, I had learned of a member who had to make the tough decision to send her daughter back to the Philippines because her student visa was expiring. And, the credit union was the only option she had. So coming in and, having that deep sadness of the realization that you have to send your child back, and how are you going to have the money to do that? And knowing that our credit union team members are showing up for situations like this and standing up for them and being there to support them in their time of need.
Thank you, Janet. Mari?
Yeah, very similar story as Jeanette. Just seeing families become separated is very heartbroken. You know, I, how do how do you just explain yourself, or how do you tell with, a 15-year-old, that, when she's saying, hey, would you mind sending me my box in case I get deported? These are my favorite things from my room, right? Like, what do you tell somebody like that, right? So what do you say? So, seeing families separated, or, I've seen some families where they're like, I'm selling everything and we're moving all back. Like, there's no way they're going to take my kids away. There's no way I'm going to be detained for months to come. Um, and, you see that their dreams just crash, right? After living here for 30 years, right? And it's very, very hard. And I think that as credit unions, advocates, and holding them by the side and saying, everything will be okay. Even though you might not think that it'll be okay, but in that moment, that's what they need to hear. And obviously, when we talk about challenging times in life, the first thing that you need is money, right?
Mhm.
First thing you need, anything you go through is money, unfortunately, right? So making sure that they know that you are providing what they need to be able to take that step in their life, if it's going back home as a family together, if it's more of a separation where, it's the dad going first or the mom and the kids going first, whatever choices they make, right? It again, I'm always very positive, and I'm always like, no, we got this. Vamos a seguir en la lucha. No se vayan, no vendan. But it's hard to continue saying that and doing that when it's just getting harder every day for them, right? And so it's time to have that reality and say, well, if things come to worse, then what can we do to support you and your family, right? How can we help you sell your car so you don't lose what you've paid for 3 years already, right? Instead of just turning it in, for example. So those are the things that we're facing right now, and it's very hard. It's very hard, but I think that I feel very lucky to be placed in this moment at this time with my community, honestly. I feel like past the years to come, hopefully they're more positive, and going back, I'm going to be very proud of our credit unions for standing for our people. And I'm going to be proud of each other in the spaces that we are right now for saying we made it happen, and we made it happen for the people we love.
Thank you for saying that, man. I just want to make a comment that, when folks are thinking of self-deporting, we have to hold space for them, because it's just a life of full of resilience, like the immigrant experience, even like me as a child, like just realizing that what the weight is of being undocumented at a very young age is really heartbreaking, and so I want for everyone here on the call that works in the branches, and you're hearing families and children telling you that they're gonna leave back home. I hope that you have it in your hearts to hold space for those folks, because I cannot imagine leaving the US. This is my home too, and to have to migrate back is just like, when does life get easier for those folks? So just wanted to make that comment. There's more questions in the chat. How do you promote awareness and support within your credit union for our immigrant communities. In Portland, Oregon, where I am, the community is mostly white American citizens. I wonder if we can promote additional awareness and support on educating our non-immigrant communities about the complicated and difficult daily realities of our immigrant communities, especially right now. Mari, I'll let you take this one and then we can pass it over to Janet.
Yes. So this one's, como dicen uno en México, lo que se dice, sacar los trapitos al sol. It takes us. It takes us, not to say anything negative about our allies. I understand they want to be, be there for us, and I get it. But at the end of the day, we're the ones that feel it, and we're the ones that see it, because it is our comunidad, it is our family, it is our friends, it's our neighbors, right? And we need to make sure that we provide that message. We need to make sure that when we're not seeing that our credit union is doing enough, we need to call it out, and there's ways to call it out. I get it. I'm privileged to be in the role I am, and I have that ability to call it out, right? And I understand we don't all have that, right? But we have to manage the way of how we can deliver this in the big picture of how it's affecting not just myself, my loved ones, but our community, right? And share it. Do we have a declaration page where we stand by our mission and who we are? Is it shared by the board? Is it shared by our CEO? When you have a negative message come through your contact saying like, why are you helping the immigrant communities? Is your leadership responding back? Where there's so many great credit unions out there. If you don't like what we do, please take your business somewhere else, right? Are you feeling like you're in the right credit union, honestly? And making sure that you stand for that and always stand for that, right? A lot of times they ask me like, who is Mary if Mary wasn't where she is now? Mary is still, first generation of immigrantes. Mary's still here for her Latinos. Mary still is. You have to remember who you are, right? And who you stand for. And we're not here to talk about am I blue or am I red or am I white or am I pink? It's not about color. It's about humans. It's about the right thing, right? So making sure that you never lose your values as who you are as a person, and who you were before you even worked at a credit union, right? And so let's remember that and lead with that. Every single thing that you do, from even volunteer work, if you're part of a committee, a board of a nonprofit that helps immigrant communities, anything that you do, make sure you put yourself in those lens of like, what am I doing today to help my community?
Anything to add, Janet?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of what she said rings true. I think one of the things our organization has really stressed is just being rooted in our philosophy of us being people helping people. And regardless of your, citizenship status, regardless of color, like you said, regardless of red, blue, green, white, doesn't matter. We are people helping people, and we're very rooted in that. And at Schools First in particular, I'm very proud of our partnership with Comunidad Latina Federal Credit Union, which promotes financial inclusion and access for immigrant families. And in these times when our immigrant families need help, Comunidad Latina is able to do things that perhaps we're not able to do, like I-10 lending for those who don't qualify for traditional lending options. And that partnership is just very critical for us to have, so that we can further support our immigrant community.
The next question I have for both of you is, what practices or programs have been most effective in calming fears and restoring a sense of safety for your members and staff? Janet, and then we'll take it to Mari.
That's a hard question for me, Barbara, because I don't think you can really restore a sense of safety with everything that's going on, we can do everything we can as credit union professionals to make them feel safe within their finances. But the minute they walk out our doors, there's threats and things that are putting that safety at risk, right? So I think the only thing that, we've been able to do is provide education and reassurance to calm some of the fears. And pretty much that's the place that we can help and support in. We talked earlier about providing vesting options to ensure they have access to their funds, doing philosophy loans for emergency lending needs when things happen at the drop of a dime, skip a payment programs for financial relief when, loss of income has prevented them from being able to make their loans on time. And, again, I reemphasize this, financial decisions are deeply emotional at this time, and we need to meet members in that emotional space to help them feel secure and supported in those decisions that they're having to make.
Mari?
Yeah, so a lot of what Jeanette has mentioned, and right now for us is really coming to our community partners. A lot of our members are already involved with a lot of these community partners. So providing more resources, information of like what community partners are available for them. If I need food, if I need rental assistance, if I need legal assistance, and just making sure we continue that collaboration. And as a credit union, we continue to sponsor those organizations because, as we know, many of our nonprofits are also going through a lot, and a lot of funding are being cut. And so how are we how as a credit union continue to support them so they can support our members, our community? So we've changed things a little bit. Unfortunately, there has been a lot of events that have been canceled due to the fear of our community. And some of them were going back to COVID times where we had to really think outside the box and go virtual 100%. One of our community partners, Hacienda CDC, which they do a lot of home fairs, they're like, Mari, we're going to do this virtually. And I'm like, chido. Que bueno, let's continue working. And is it going to be a little different and maybe a little challenging to get people to sign up and be interactive? Yes, right. But it's about showing up, right? It's about continuing to support your community, your members, your staff, whatever it takes. But you being present means a lot.
And Mari, I'll stay with you. Have you developed any new initiatives or partnerships that have helped your credit union better support the community through this uncertainty?
Oh, for sure. I mean, we've always been very close with the Consulado de Mexico here in Portland, but now we're like BFFs. Alicia's there once a week, where before we were there maybe every other month. And now it's like, no, una vez a la semana. We want to hear what our people are going through. We want to listen to the stories. We want to know what's happening. And by you knowing is you being there with them. And that's the only way, right? So we've been very intentional on who we sponsor more now. We've been very intentional or who we say yes to. For those that know me and that don't know me, I say yes quite a bit. And so, but now it's more showing up intentionally. What community partners are currently helping our immigrant communities and making sure that we're there for them and showing up. Not saying that all those amazing other events are not important, but right now, for us, making sure that we're serving our underserved community, our Latinos, our immigrants, and all immigrants, not just our Latinos, right? But we're showing up for them. So we've been more intentional on the community partners we're really working with right now.
Janet?
Great. Yeah. I mean, I talked earlier about the Comunidad Latina partnership. I think that is one of our strongest partnerships. But, one of the initiatives that we do have in place at Schools First is our business continuity plan. And honestly, what has come to light from this is that, as an organization, we are prepared for the unexpected. When crisis happens, this plan comes into place and our leadership is prepared and empowered to take the actions that are going to protect both our team and our members. And I think what this has allowed us to do is to provide quick guidance, communication, and support to our team so that they're confident in how to move within these spaces while, serving our members who are going through these difficulties.
Thank you. And so the next question I have for you both is, can you share an example of a moment where you saw resilience or hope within your community despite the challenges, Janet?
Yeah, I'm going to give a shout out to our Senior Vice President of DEI, Jessica Jameson, if she's on here. But, you know, she did actually address the entire organization in a speech that rooted us in our people helping people philosophy. She brought to light how this, you know, directly or indirectly impacts all of us. And it's not just an immigration issue, it's an issue of humanity, right? It's at the core of who we are as a credit union. We have a responsibility to one another to be kind and to be supportive. And so really what I saw through this powerful message, the resilience and hope that came from that is really an organization that came together and was rising for what's right. Not, you know, what we have to do, not, you know, what we're being asked to do, but what's right, you know, for humanity as a whole. And so some of the stories that I have heard that have supported, you know, just that resilience is, you know, members being walked to their cars to provide a sense of safety, or our teams coming together to support their community by doing a school supplies raffle to ensure that, you know, that's one less thing that members have to worry about. I think I saw earlier on the chat that said, you know, some are not even getting medical care because they're afraid to go out. Yes, there's so many things that I think we don't consider. But her message, Jessica's message, inspired the entire organization to, you know, be at the core of who we are, be people helping people, and to really, you know, show up for one another in the best possible way. And so there's so many stories that have come from that have inspired us to do what's right, even if it is just walking you to your cars so that you feel safe.
Thank you. Mari?
Oh, I love that. That's amazing. You know, I guess for me, the proud moment, you know, is when I see our leadership team, our CEO, our board make you know, post you know, on social media, on our website, you know, we still we're all citizens of Point West. No, todos somos ciudadanos de Point West. And having conversations with many of our community partners and saying, nope, I-10 is not going away. Nope, we're still doing matriculas. We're still who we are. We're not going to change no matter what. It does. This is when credit unions need to stand for our community. Porque, I mean, we want to stand when things are great, then how does that show that you care or that you will be with them on thick and thin, right? So when I see those messages, when I see our board posting, you know, and saying this is our mission, these are our values, it makes me so proud, right? It makes me so proud to be part of this organization. It makes me so proud to be part of credit unions, you know, which I've never thought I could be, right? I was a teller at Ross Dress for Less before coming here. And so being part of this big familia and this moment of resiliencia y amor y respeto, it's very, very empowering, and it gives me a lot of hope. It gives me a lot of hope. So those are my happy moments, right? Where we know that our board and our leadership stands by our community. And that brings me joy.
Mhm. I feel like I need to make a point here as well, Mari, because something that you said resonated with me, that, you know, you have to stick with folks, especially when things are hard. Our community is a community that remembers. And even if my parents were to leave to Mexico and they no longer had to bank here, I will remember. You guys all have to remember that the Latino community is still the fastest growing population in the US, and we have children, and those children will remember who was there to service their parents when they need it the most. So I just want to make that point because I think we need to think about the historical context of this all, and it's happened before in history. And we came out of it, you know, and I know that, you know, 4 years from today or whenever, we'll come out of it again, and it will be stronger than ever, and we'll remember which credit unions and which organizations were there to help support through these times of need. So for the next question I have, what are some small yet meaningful actions other credit union professionals can take right now to help? Mari?
Ooh, be the voice, of your community. You know, a lot of times, you know, especially if we're behind that double of 3 screens and we're so concentrated on, you know, booking this loan or opening this account, but it's really important that you pay attention to your community. It's really important that you pay attention to your neighbors. So be that voice for them. Be that voice for them, and be curious, and ask those questions. And and deliver the message. It's really important to deliver the message, right? You have to remind your members that you are their advocate. You are there to share the message with your board or your leadership, but do share that message, right? Because sometimes we tend to just keep it and be like, yes, okay, I know okay, this member said this, yes, that was very rude or racial or whatever it is. No, deliver the message, because these things should not be happening, right? And sometimes I know it can be heavy on us because we feel like we're always the ones taking the punches, and but you are the voice. If they're coming to you, it's because you have opened that connection with them, and you've opened that comfortable, and they trust you, and so take that to the next level, and be that voice for them.
Janet?
Yeah, I definitely feel like right now what we can really encourage, would be active listening and empowerment to take action. We need to adapt to our members' emotional needs, not just their financial needs right now. I think we're shifting to a place where we need to have a more holistic approach of how we take care of our members moving forward. Today is immigration, tomorrow will be something else. So I think, active listening and being empowered to take action is so critical to the future of us in the credit union world. So like I said, I think taking a holistic view, being kind and listening to someone and doing the right thing for someone, doesn't require training. It really is just the right thing to do.
Love that. What roles does leadership play in creating a safe and supportive environment for both staff and members? And then I know I'm gonna piggyback on this question by a question of the audience that says, is anyone else experiencing where your credit union or leadership isn't really acknowledging the situation or addressing these fears, not just with membership, but with internal employees? So it's a two-part question, Janet, and then we'll take it over to Mari.
Yeah, I mean, just hearing the second part makes me really sad that it's not being addressed. It's, I will tell you that, in my role, I support 70 branches. And, what I've learned is that our leadership presence directly influences the way that our member experience goes. When the team expresses activity near their branches, when this all started, I mean, it was obviously, chaos when all of this was happening. And any branch that would call me and say, hey, they're in our shopping center, like I rushed to the branch to make sure that I stood there in solidarity with my team. And so, we've addressed this as an organization from the top down. And, it's something that I think is very important because it does affect us. It affects our members, it affects us. Everybody's life is being affected by this. And so that part just makes me really sad. I think our presence is what helps give that support to make people feel safe, protected. And as leaders, we need to model the way in what empathy and compassion looks like. If we're showing up with empathy and compassion, it creates a space for our team to be able to do the same, and it really sets the tone to reinforce our culture.
Mari?
Yeah, I'm sorry that, some of you are going through this. I cannot imagine, being able to feel like I can't share what my community is going through or myself, so I'm sorry that you're going through that. It's really important that you find, the credit union that calls, that you can say, they're my family, it's my home, right? I know it's hard, but they're it's sometimes, you have to think about that. You have to think about, like, well, is this the right place for me, right? And I would say, one of the things I always tell my members, and because sometimes they come to me and complain quite a bit, I remind them the importance of that they have a voice and they have a vote. They're members. They're owners of our credit union. And so we do listening sessions where we do one in English listening session, we do one in Spanish listening session, and we do one for our community partners listening session. We invite our board, we invite our leaders. And they complain, right? And they complain. They're like, you know what? I don't like this service. I don't like, where your branch is. I miss having the drive-through. I don't like your parking lot.
Mhm.
And having them understand that you, as a staff, you can only do so much, right? You know, our credit union is based on our board and our members. Our members get to vote and talk to our board. And so reminding them that this is your credit union and you have a voice and you have a vote. This is how you contact our CEO. This is how you contact, you know, our board. This is the next listening session. Come and join us. We would love to know more of like what you think about this service, right? And letting them know that they have that power, right? Because sometimes as staff, we only can go do so much, right? So opening those spaces for our members that are the owners of the credit union is also important, because when we see that we get members that are stating their message to the leadership and to the board, that's a different message, that it's coming straight from our members. That's way different. That's more powerful than your own message, right? So that's something that I've learned, and I've used it towards my advantage, because I was the only one doing community impact for many years. And a lot of our members kept saying, Mary, why are you not in
You gonna
Salem?
go to church?
Mary,
Okay, well then,
Oh, so sorry. Let me mute them. There we go.
did I freeze?
No, you're good. If someone
Okay.
in the audience was.
And so I asked them, you know, come and complain with our board and our leaders. And they did. And, you know, a year later, here I have a team member that is helping me, right? So it's really important that we remind our members that they have a voice and they have a vote.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you. And just some advice, and take it with a grain of salt for the person that asked that question. Sometimes it takes you sitting down with your leadership
Mhm.
and addressing it yourself for them to become aware, because you know you would be surprised how far removed some folks are from what happens to everyday people. And I had to do that at my previous credit union. And when I did address it, I actually went to my CEO and addressed it, and he had no idea what even a DACA recipient was. And it wasn't out of malice. It wasn't out of, I didn't feel, at least it wasn't any, he just didn't know. He just did not know. And after I gave him an information session, a lot of things started changing in the way he was addressing the community and the Latino community and the Latino staff specifically at the credit union. So if you have the courage, and I know these are hard times, and courage seems to be something that, at least for myself, I'm lacking right now. I encourage you to sit down with somebody in your leadership team and educate them on the realities of what we're facing as a community. What lessons from this experience do you think will change how credit unions serve the communities in the future? Janet?
I think that we need to be cognizant of the fact that we're not just financial institutions anymore. We're often the lifelines for our members in various situations. And so I think that it's going to continue to evolve as things happen. You know, I think COVID kind of opened the door to that a little bit, and then things have happened and trickled since then. And we've had to move in this space very differently and know that, we aren't just a financial institution. I mean, that's why they come to the credit union. If they wanted a financial institution, they would go to a large institution instead. I think, but what they're looking for from us and have always looked for from us is that care and that compassion when they need us. And so I think we're just going to have to be very diligent in staying rooted in who we are, in our culture, in showing up for our members in the best possible ways, regardless of the situation.
Mm-hmm. Mari?
Yes, echoing back to Jeanette, for sure. We're not just a transaction. We're not just here to, give you debt, or help you through, your credit score and things like that. We're more than that, right? We are an institution who is here to stand with you, in challenging times, and we want them to feel like they can come to us when they really need any service, right? I know right now we're talking about, status immigration, but a lot of families, they're living paycheck to paycheck, and sometimes they either have to pay rent or buy food, right? So we want to make sure that we are providing resources as where do you get additional food services? Where do you get medical assistance, right? We're seeing a lot of families who've never been to a doctor and they've been here for years, right? Because they don't know what services they are available to them as immigrants, right? So it's our responsibility to share that information. Yes, you're a credit union, and I know that does not have to do anything with food or medical, but they are your members. And so we want to make sure that we are providing all the resources possible for them. If that is having a resource page on your website, if that's doing call outs via email, if that's putting stuff on your social media pages, if that's sponsoring community partners that are going out to your community and having these resources, how are you helping them sponsor your members too, right? So it all comes in one effect.
And we'll end with this question. If you could share one message of encouragement with credit union professionals nationwide, what would it be? Janet?
I would say that what you do and how you do it matters. The impact of your actions can be very transformational for those that you serve. Remember that kindness is going to go a long way, and that everyone is going through something. And sometimes the credit union is the only lifeline they have. So I would just say that I encourage you to be empowered and go out there and make a difference in people's lives in whatever way they need.
Mari?
Sí se puede, sí se puede. We've lived this. I mean, we go back to history time. Let me tell you what, we've lived this several times, right? Even though everything is so gray and negative, looking back on how much we've grown as a community and knowing like our Latinos continue to grow, we're gonna be here. They're not getting rid of us. Our DNA is here because we belong here. So just remember that. And even though it's hard to smile sometimes, remember it is important to smile and provide hope even when it's a hard time, because a lot of our members want to hold from that hope, and you're literally the only person that can give that to them. So remember to smile, be kind, and let's check up on each other, be kind to each other, and remember we are a community, so let's be that community and come together.
Thank you, Mari. And I know that wasn't for me, but I do have some advice. Speak up even if your voice shakes, I think we're in a privileged position to speak up for folks. A lot of our people cannot speak up due to fear and retaliation, but if you're able to, please speak up. Even when the voice is shaky, like mine right now, so as I say that, it's shaky. I want to encourage everybody to continue being on the lookout for additional webinars like these. We will have a huge event for Hispanic Heritage Month where we all come together as a community and chat and go through more of these stories and of these things. I think this is what keeps us going as credit union professionals, to come together and convene as a community. So I really encourage you to continue following us on LinkedIn so you can stay up to date on everything that we have going on in NALCUP. And lastly, we do have our conference, our Latino conference, coming in February. So please register if you're able. To the audience, oh my God, thank you so much for showing up and supporting us today. This is amazing. This is exactly what we were hoping for. Thank you for your engagement. Thank you for all the encouraging words on the chat. And pues echarle ganas. And I hope everybody has a great afternoon. If the panelists can just stay back for one moment, we appreciate it. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.